Praised be Jesus and Mary. Let's look at the life of St. Lucy, whom we celebrate today. She was born in Sicily, in the city of Syracuse, towards the end of the 3rd century, so the late 200s. She was raised in the Christian faith from her childhood. Her father died when she was young, but her mom continued to educate her and did a very good job, especially instilling in her a love for Christian virtue, the virtue of chastity. By the early impressions which Lucy received, the strong influence of divine grace, she was moved at a very young age to consecrate her virginity to God. Her mother did not know about this. She was not opposed to it, just didn't know about it, and arranged for a marriage between Lucy and a pagan who nevertheless seemed like he would be a good husband for her. When the saint disclosed to her mother later on her desire of devoting herself to God in a state of perpetual virginity and of bestowing her fortune on the poor, the mom left her at full liberty to pursue her pious inclination. She didn't insist on that marriage. However, the young man was upset, and in his rage accused her before the governor Pascagius as a Christian. At that time, this was the last great persecution in the Roman Empire, that of Diocletian. So being accused of being a Christian was bad news, and Lucy was taken before Pascagius, the judge, who judged her with all his fury. The judge commanded the Holy Virgin to be exposed to prostitution in a brothel house, but God made her immovable by a miracle so that the guards were not able to carry her there to carry out this unjust sentence. He also made her an overmatch for the cruelty of the persecutors in overcoming fire and other torments. As part of the torment, part of the punishment, part of the cruelty, her eyes were actually gouged out as well. After a long and glorious combat, she died in prison of the wound she had received about the year 304. Such was the life and glorious death of this virgin and martyr, St. Lucy. Two spiritual lessons, two spiritual takeaways from her life. One, the Romans, even in their paganism, had an awareness of the shamefulness and the sinfulness of sexual activity outside of marriage. The Romans were a rational people, a reasonable people. However, they did not have the strength to follow the promptings of reason and to live the truth that they recognized. So though they recognized the shamefulness of sexual immorality, they nevertheless indulged in it and were particularly known for indulging in that which they knew was shameful. It's only when they embraced Christianity, it's only when the Roman Empire became Christian and grace came to their assistance that they were able to live the virtue they knew was virtue and to avoid the sin that they knew was sin. Then the tax collectors and prostitutes began to enter the kingdom of heaven, leaving behind them the life of sin and embracing the life of grace. So when Christianity is embraced, when a society becomes Christian, things really do change for the better. However, when a Christian society, so now we're fast forwarding to today, and not just speaking of Romans or of Italians, but when any culture which was once Christian and de-Christianizes itself, rejects Christianity, things really change for the worse, and they go back to a state that's even worse than it was before. As our Lord says in the Gospel of Luke, when a demon is cast out and then re-invited back in, he doesn't come alone, he comes with 7 others. So what's that worsening of the situation? I would say today, societies that were pagan and became Christian and have paganized back are worse because whereas before, for example, the Romans knew the shamefulness, knew the immorality of sexual sin, and they just didn't have the grace to live up to virtue and to reject the sin. Today, even the shame is gone. Today, there's no longer any shame in sexual immorality. It's all just a question of preference, orientation, identity, whatever we might want to call it. Even the shame is gone today. There's nothing wrong anymore, at least in that post-Christian cultural vision of sexual immorality. And one more thing, and this is a bit of reading into the situation, but it was ironic how the judge, Pascagius, had Lucy's eyes gouged out. The eyes are an instrument of lust, and Pascagius was one of the last lustful pagan judges to condemn Christians precisely for their virtue. And yet he, with his guilt, projects it on Lucy and inflicts the punishment upon her. Her eyes are gouged out. And that's very normal, in fact. The guilty project their guilt upon the innocent. We should expect it. In what sense? Again, transferring this to today, to the world in which we live. Again, the world in which we live, post-Christian, having rejected the gospel, having rejected Christ, no longer will admit that there is any shame in sexual immorality, no matter how shameful, no matter how absurd it might be. There's no shame in anything anymore. And those who see the shame will be called the guilty, the perverse. The guilt will be projected onto them. Those who still see a problem with the absurd sinfulness of culture today, they will be the ones punished. They will be the ones to whom the cause of the problem is attributed. If you don't accept homosexuality, you're the problem. If you don't accept bestiality, you're the problem. If you don't accept fornication, you are the problem. If you don't accept adultery, whatever beautiful and merciful name we might give to it today, you are the problem. Expect the label. It's a strategy that's used over and over again. Expect the label, hater, rigorist, Pharisee, whatever it might be. Expect the label, but don't worry about it. Blessed are the pure of heart, says the Lord, for they shall see God. Even if, like St. Lucy, our eyes have to be gouged out in order to maintain that purity of heart. Blessed are they, for they shall see God. Praised be Jesus and Mary.
Amen.